Paul Umbrello joins us from Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Thoroughbred Breeders Association. Paul, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, my pleasure. And I got to find out more about. We've been running this commercial, and was approached by the mass breeders, and I was happy to do it. Tell everybody about where this money's coming from. It reminded me of Virginia a few years ago, and you're trying to keep the breeding community alive in Massachusetts.
Correct. So a little history, as you may know, or your viewers may or may not know, obviously, Suffolk Downs in 2014, decided to close the doors, sell the property. It was far valuable, but we, the Horsemen, I also serve as the executive director for the New England HBPA. We ran and sponsored the festivals through 2019, just that, to help the breeders run mass-bred stakes races, keep the local New England Horsemen alive and going until finally 2019. The sale of the deal was made, and hence they started demoing. So we, as the HBPA, are still actively looking and hoping to pursue and find land in Massachusetts to bring thoroughbred racing back. Of course, if we can do that, that will help. Obviously, our mass breeding farms, and our breeding program. But it's been very challenging, and out of all the states in the country, Massachusetts is probably the most challenging, because to find land and its value, in Massachusetts and 100 plus acres, or in towns, and unfortunately towns, the way the law is written, requires a 2/3 town vote, which is a very tough nut to crack for us. So that's been our struggle, my struggle in working and trying to get investors to come into town, which of course sports betting was just passed. So that hopefully is another incentive. We worked legislatively to have that language put in to protect the racetrack investor that invests in a racetrack to be guaranteed a license. So that's a little quick history. Now about the breeding program, and while it's said we're the best kept secret, we do actually have, and that's what we're trying to get the message out to folks out there, and be more proactive, is we do actually have the best program in the country, and I'll try to step through and explain it, but that Racehorse Development Fund through gaming, which again the Horsemen were instrumental in 2011 writing that gaming act, just that, to protect the horsemen, because we know, like in this industry today, anything gaming related just takes away from us. So we have to protect all the horsemen out there across the country. We just have to get better and smarter at that, and continue that push. So the breeding program itself, and why it's the best in the country. So through that Racehorse Development Fund, 16% is allocated to the breeders, and that includes standardbreds and thoroughbreds. Unfortunately, and I also serve on the horse racing committee with the commission, I'm wearing too many hats lately, we have to, by statute, kind of defend why we deserve X percentage. Unfortunately, today that split is 70-30, and that's what we're fighting to bring those numbers back up and offering these type of programs. So, to cut to the chase, we offer now any mass-bred foal. And the definitions for mass-bred foal is obviously if you bring in a mare by October 15th and drop the foal in Massachusetts, obviously that following year, you're a mass-bred registered horse, and you go through the registration process with MDAR. Now, the other way you can do it is you could bring in your broodmare from Kentucky and, bring it at the beginning of the year, drop that foal on a farm, and the only caveat is you have to breed back that broodmare to a mass stallion. And for a mass stallion, if people are interested, they could bring their stallion in by February 1st of that breeding year, and then you would be a registered mass stallion. So if you had out there, and I'll get into the really the crutch of all this, the bonus money. But if you had a stallion out there and you want to bring it to a farm and put it on a farm, before February 1st, and you've got a broodmare, and, you have so many options to either bring a broodmare in and drop it, breed your own stallion, or breed back to another stallion. But, here comes the kicker. as a mass-bred horse, and if you finish first, second, or third, 25% of purse earnings go to the breeder. 30%, and this will get a little dicey, used to go to the owner. And what we recently did to help those breeders out there is we split it 20% to the owner and 10% to a developer. And what that 10% means, and I know it's a lot to take in, is we now classify that developer as the owner of record for the horse's first start. Because what we saw in years past, there became a feeding frenzy of mass breds being claimed because as the owner, you could get a 30% bonus. So what we did to help with the breeders, and those investing, we said, all right, look, if your horse is in a mating claiming and you start the horse and the horse gets claimed from you, let's say, for $20,000, you as the owner will get your 10%. However, you as the owner of record, meaning you could be the breeder, by the way, so now you're getting 45% bonus.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're going to get the residuals, the incentives we offer for the life of that horse racing. So that right there is a kicker to incentivize people to come in, breed. And now the other thing to help our mass bred farms, we also came up with as a breeder, now theoretically your horse has more value. So which I admit, I'm on the breeder's board, but I'd love to. I don't own a farm. And myself particularly a breeder, but I'm involved buying mass breds. But here's that kick. So now let's say you're breeding a farm, you have a horse on a farm and you drop personally 4 foals. You want to keep 2. You want to sell 2. Well, in the past that, I buy the horse from you, horse is okay, but, have to run him in a maiden 10. I could lose the horse. So I just put that whole investment of buying that foal all that time, getting the track. So what we now do is we protect, you, the developer, as we call it, but also the breeder. Because now we feel that the breeder could possibly offer more horse for that type of incentive, right? So we came up with that. So now that's broken out. And then as the stallion owner, if you had a stallion, you get 15% on the Stallion Award owners. And the caveats also are there is a $5,000 cap per race per category. So think about it. If you were the breeder, you were the owner developer, and you happen to be the stallion owner, right? I got to add up quickly. I should have been prepared. Sorry. 45, 55, 70% in bonuses, right? And unlike other programs, like you said, you can run anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country. What about
anywhere in the country?
What about Canada? Canada too? No, because you were running it at Fort Erie. You had the mass bred races.
Correct. So that, believe it or not, kind of was a sticky wicket because the money never went to Canada. We dispersed the funding directly from our account, so there was a little controversy on that. But yes, North America would be included.
Okay. All right. So they wherever you want to run. Obviously, Paul, the key here is having stallions and having a viable program essentially. How many farms, how many boarding facilities and such are there in Massachusetts, and how many foals are we talking about the last couple of years?
Yeah, so we have registered farms that we know of with the breeders. Sadly, again, without racing, and that's what we're trying to bring back, that gives the confidence of people to, reinvest back in the business. Farms are dropping like hotcakes because the land, sadly, in Massachusetts is far more valuable for that farm owner breeder to sell it out for development, for folks that don't realize it, especially those long timers out there. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to, with these type of programs, get even outside investors to come in and buy a farm, right? Preservation of open space, preservation of the breeding program. And the same thing, our foal numbers are down, and it's why we're kind of now pushing this campaign more and more, was to get those numbers up so we can show that there is an interest. And I know since the last couple of months, we just had a breeders meeting. A lot of folks are now doing, I'm hearing more and more, we're trying to track it, that more people from out of state are coming in to, drop their foals. So obviously drop your foal, has to stay on the farm 2 weeks, and then, ship it back out to Kentucky, Ohio, wherever you want to go. But you now become a registered mass bred, especially if you have, maybe decent quality bred horse. Now, a couple other kickers. We also offer, because we are no longer running mass bred restricted stakes races like we did in Canada and other states to help the breeders, we're offering in lieu a $10,000 supplement anywhere you race out of state as well. And we pay out, right through 60, 20, 10, 5, 3, 2, all the way out to sixth place, a $10,000 supplement. So, for people that are following, we have one of the best passports out there, Dr. Blarney, who's running in Delaware, many other places, and obviously the Mr. DeRico as an owner, breeder, developer, gets to capitalize on those other incentives, and that's what we're trying to encourage people to come and invest in Massachusetts.
Well, that nobody walks around luckier than Joe DeRico.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's that, and some people come under criticism, but he spends the money, he makes the investment. He's dedicated to the industry, and he breeds quality horses. Now, the other thing, I'll kind of tip folks off, and I'm trying to wait for final approval. We've been working this one is, we're looking to do, as you mentioned earlier with Virginia, an accredited program.
Right.
Which is going to be tremendous. So now if you have, a New York bred, PA bred, whatever it is, you can now come to a farm in Massachusetts, keep the horse on the farm for 3 months, and you now can have, as I call it, dual citizenship. Your license is going to say New York / Mass, Mass certified, and you'd still be eligible for some of those incentives. Obviously, you wouldn't get the Breeders' Awards, you wouldn't get the Stallion Awards, but you'd still be eligible for that 30% of the owner-developer, which again is just, as far as I know, unheard of.
Well, the accreditation, that program, that's sort of a hybrid between Virginia and Delaware. It's more of it's a certified style. The program in Virginia, what Debbie Easter and the Virginia Equine Alliance did, and Frank Petromallo, that kept Virginia viable. It kept farms open as boarding facilities, and now with everything that's happened at Colonial, those farms are stocked to the gills. There isn't even guys like our friend Woodbury Payne. Woodbury has got a waiting list to develop horses. He is full up. Every farm is full up. There's actually people building new ones. And Paul, I would think. I mean, I grew up in Hartford, outside of Hartford, and I know Massachusetts pretty darn well. There's got to be. From Springfield heading west, there's plenty of places for farmland and paddocks and for having. And I was shocked when Sturbridge, the project in Sturbridge, I was shocked that got turned down.
Yeah, so great question, and that's been the dilemma as I've been getting more and more gray hairs over the years, scouring Massachusetts, north, south, east, west. And it's what some of the investors out there are getting frustrated over. To find just that 100-plus acres in Massachusetts, unfortunately, is going to be a board of selectmen, town board, right? Which, because of the current statute out there, and the town isn't approved for gaming, you need a 2/3 town vote. And honestly, going into Sturbridge, and it's a message we try to let people know, out there is, we got to start small, right? Maybe with the festival racing and build it up. No way are we going to be able to turn the key and offer 60 days of racing, sadly, and expect a bunch of horsemen, even local horsemen, to just pack up and come back to Massachusetts without, the program up and running. But unfortunately, in Sturbridge, same thing. We thought we had that wrapped up, and one of the selectmen going into the vote quoted that, misquoted an individual that, we were going to run 100 days or more. And you could just see, I was sitting in the cafeteria watching it on a big screen, and you could just see that kind of just changed the whole attitude of everybody, because it just panicked them. And I don't get it out there. I mean, I get it, gaming, taboo, but we're trying to get the message out. I'm sure and your listeners knows that, this industry, and I go to the State House many times writing letters. It's an unbelievable industry where, if you think about it, right, all the jobs we support out there, the preservation of open space, the breeding farms, the hay farms, right? And you can look at those big corporations and the jobs they have, techie admin and outsourcing, and I always kid, we don't outsource jockeys and trainers overseas. I got a list in front of me that just you can think about. Your farriers, your vets, your interns, feed, grain, ambulance, state police, your state officials. It's A to Z with the jobs that we support for this industry. And, when we build it, those roots go in the ground, and we're not going anywhere. But it's got that tarnish. And, people talking about, I don't want gambling in my town. I'm like, you got the lottery. You got scratch tickets.
Ridiculous.
You got Keno.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
By the way, I'm standing in your town, and I'm betting Santa Anita right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And with sports betting, I just played the Celtics. I mean, we have to, instead of in this industry, my personal opinion is, instead of getting on the defense, we now have to start to get on the offense, right? Like any industry, I'll admit, there's some bad seeds out there, right? But not everybody's a bad seed. And that's the image we have to start changing and push for, to let people understand really, a lot of the aftercare. Part of our goal of having a racetrack built, and we want enough acres, is just that. We want to have a retirement aftercare program where we could rescue horses as part of the racetrack. I mean, this is all the ideas and visions we have in incorporating this type of development, because we do care about that horse, that thoroughbred. So, but you're right. So investors get, going back to your comment, a little wary about that 2/3 town vote. If it was a majority, would have a better chance, but that 2/3 town vote just scares people.
Now, there's some. There were also some. The animal activist activity that was pronounced, and came in and tarred the whole effort. Anyway, the good news is this money is not going anywhere. It's it's part of the firmament, and horse breeders and owners can take advantage of it. And I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to talk. Massbreds.com has got all this information, and we'll talk again. Paul, I appreciate you doing this.
No, I can't thank you enough for having me on the phone and letting folks hear our story out there. Really appreciate your time.
Not at all. Massbreds.com. These incentives, and you know what I'll do? I'll get Joe. I'll get Dorico on, and we'll let Joe talk about how lucrative it's been. I will do that. All right.
Thanks, man. All right.
Thanks,
you
Paul.
Have a good day. Appreciate your time.
Not at all.
Right. Bye-bye.
Paul Umbrello from Massbreds.com.